Hey guys, welcome to Neat Movie News. My name is Dean Thomas. Finally catching up on a movie I missed because of the 4th of July weekend, and that's the BFG, directed by Steven Spielberg, based on the book by Roald Dahl. Now, the book is not even something I'd ever even heard of until this movie was coming out. I had no idea what it was. I had no idea what the BFG stood for. I heard something it was about a giant. Instantly, what came to my mind was the big effing giant. Turns out it's the big friendly giant. And assuming because it's Roald Dahl, this is probably a children's fantasy book. That's what I'm assuming, and that's also because of what this movie is. It feels like a children's fantasy and imagination come to life. It's a children's book brought onto the big screen, and that's why I think this movie, while I liked it, I think younger kids and kids will absolutely love it. And if you really enjoyed the book growing up as a kid, I think you'd also really enjoy it as well. Because the way Steven Spielberg makes this world, the way the giants, one, they look. The CGI at times, you can tell it's CGI just about the entire time, but you get used to it after a while and you just kind of accept the fact that it's going to look like this. But the world that the giants inhabit is really what kind of blew my mind. The way Spielberg uses these magical colors and the way everything looks and the way Sophie, the little girl, interacts with this giant world. That's what sold me. That's what I really enjoyed about it, and that's why I think kids really love it because it's just about this whole it's about magic and the imagination and all these really cool things, and just the way Spielberg brought them to life and made this world feel like a real place. Now, the giant played by Mark Rylance, who seems to be Spielberg's go-to guy, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, he just won an Oscar working with Spielberg. So, he as the giant, as the big friendly giant, is really endearing. Now, like I said, lot of motion capture, and while a lot of the body and self in the face you can tell is CG, it's the eyes. The way Mark Rylance one uses his eyes to act, but it's just the way that they were captured. They look so real, and it's kind of off-putting because they're so in your face and they look so lifelike compared to the rest of his body at times. But he really uses the eyes to act, and it's his performance that really makes you care about the giant because you needed more than just a big CG creature. You had to care about the creature because he's the driving force of this movie. Now, some of the things, obviously, because I think it's more intended for children and it's a family kind of movie, some of the story points are really bold and take some really weird turns. But then I kind of have to remind myself, well, this bit is based on a children's fantasy book. Of course, these were the sort of things. It's supposed to introduce these themes to kids when they're younger. And Spielberg decided, to go exactly with what I assume the book did. And I think that's why once again, little kids and younger kids and maybe kids and people who grew up reading the book would really appreciate it. For me as a movie though, it's a little jarring at times and it's just kind of a little over the top ridiculous at times. But that being said, that the whole point is this movie is not necessarily intended for me. It's intended for families to bring their young kids to show them this magical world, this piece of imagination. And I think the little girl who plays Sophie is also really good because you can tell for the most part she's on a soundstage with some green screens all around her. And the fact that she, as a probably like a 10-year-old girl, was able to just act against nothing was really impressive. And you did care about her as well. You cared about her character. So I think this movie pulls off a lot of things really well. The magical world this thing sets up on, the themes it plays with, is all really, really cool. And one of the things that stood out the most to me is when Spielberg would take these really wide shots of the giant of BFG so you'd really see him, and the way he would run was really cool to me. I don't know, it's that visual that really stood out to me. Just the way of magical colors in this fantasy world that they created, I think one, if you have kids, I think they would really like this movie. Or if you grew up reading the book and really liked it, I think you would really appreciate what this movie does. For me, I thought it was an okay movie as far as movie goes, but I still enjoyed it. I enjoyed it for what it was. So I'm gonna give the BFG just a 70%. I think it was a good, solid, charming movie. Didn't blow me away, and I appreciate it because I know exactly what it was and what they were going for. And although I don't know the source material it was based on, I feel like I do now because I could just feel where Spielberg would use elements from the book in this movie. So for me, the BFG is a 70%. How about you guys? Are you looking forward to this movie? Have you seen it? Because I'm getting this up a little late. I'm sorry about that. And if you have read the book, I'd be really curious to know if you've now seen the movie, the elements it takes. Does it take any liberties with the source material? I'd just be curious because, like I said, I had no idea that this book was even a thing until this movie was coming out. Make sure you follow me on Twitter, guys, at Neat Movie News for all the latest in the world of movies. Thank you guys so much for listening, and we'll see you back here next time.